Richard Beastall, Partick Thistle Football Club Board Director, many thanks for your time today in our latest interview in this series. As always, let's start by telling Jags fans a bit about yourself as a Thistle supporter and also from a professional perspective, please.
Thanks, Brian. So my story into being a Thistle fan is probably not typical to a lot of people. My parents came up from Liverpool just before I was born, so I don't have that family link to being a Thistle fan. I wasn't dragged along as a 5-year-old and said, "You will like this, you will enjoy this, son." I get into Thistle in the early 90s when I came along with some friends from school just for something to do of a Saturday afternoon. So I don't have that really strong, my first game was this and such a player scored. But I do remember standing in the shed raving on about Bobby Law. And I remember well the Les Mortram ghost goal. I was at that game, so I remember all that stuff really, really well. From then, I became a season ticket holder in the 90s and was a regular attender through all the 90s. I remember Save the Jags really well. I remember Craig Brown answered my question on the Bosman ruling at one of the evenings, just because I think that was the time the Bosman ruling had just been released. Then as my career became more serious around the turn of the century, I was coming less often to Firhill. So I probably didn't come terribly often, maybe 2 or 3 games a season through 2000 to about 2015. And then with my own family, I thought, my own 5-year-old son, I thought, right, you are going to become a Thistle fan, I am going to drag you along. And since then, we've been season ticket holders and we've been coming regularly and really enjoying our time at Firhill.
Fantastic.
Professionally, so I'm a boring accountant. My background is I've been a finance director of a number of different companies. Most notably, my last big role, I suppose, was the FD for the Herald newspaper, the Evening Times newspaper, and S1 Jobs. And I've also worked with advertising agencies and architects businesses. I left there 5 years ago to set up my own business, and I now work as a kind of consultant finance director for 4 or 5 different businesses, and I specialise in working capital management, so making sure that cash is always there, and also in process and systems improvements.
Brilliant, thank you very much for that, Richard. Pretty much close to 30 years then, I guess, as a Jags fan. The early 90s was a great place to start, and more recently, of course, joining the board of the club. And I know from recent games at Hampden as well, you and your family are also keen Scotland supporters, as many Jags fans are, so it's fair to say you get to plenty of games and have been duly entertained so far this year.
Absolutely. I think football is a huge part of my life. So my family and I we attend all the Scotland home games. Have really fond memories of sitting before the Georgia game wringing my socks out. So we managed to get caught in the downpour and arrived just as the first goal was scored, actually, and then we had to sit for the 2 hours. But we sat out, we stayed till the end, we saw it and we enjoyed it. And aside from that, I also coach my son's football team, so 2015, so my 7-year-old son's football team. So football is everything. I don't really do anything that doesn't involve football at the moment. A lot of my clients are actually based in football as well, so it's just sort of all come together nicely for me as a football fan.
Superb. So tell us about your role. Back to Thistle actually, and when you're not in the director's box, where would you usually take in matches? At the Wire Stadium at Firhill, and with whom? So
I watch with our family, and we sit towards the front of the Jackie Husband stand. My sons like to be close to the game and be able to see and hear the players, and so I think for them that's a big important part of the experience, is to be up close in person with the players. I would prefer to sit back and be able to view the game a bit better, but I have to say through the playoffs we sat in the Lambie stand, and my son absolutely loved it and he's desperate to go back. So I think having introduced him to a really good atmosphere at Firhill, I think he's keen to experience more. Yeah, not the only one who's looking to make that transition this summer from Jackie Husband to John Lambie, which is 2 great options to have, of course. Question I was about to start a minute ago, tell us about your role within the Thistle board and what your focus has been since the end of last season as we continue to prepare for league football returning. Sure, so my focus is anything to do with numbers, which is kind of quite a lot of things, and systems. So my professional background is focusing on getting to know the numbers and getting to maximise them and looking after the systems. So my focus since the end of last season has been getting the budget sorted for this year, making sure we can maximise our playing budgets, making sure that we improve our systems and ensure that we can understand the revenues that come into the bars, into the hospitality suite, and making sure that we are managing the ticket system, because obviously there were challenges around the ticket system towards the end of last year, and it's important that we fix that. So we're talking to a number of providers about making it easier for supporters to buy tickets and for the club to understand how and where we make profits from our hospitality operations. I've also been in conversation with a number of potential investors into the club. So I think the previous announcement we put out in June identified the need to bring investment into the club. So I've been leading that process and have several fruitful conversations that are needing a hopefully positive conclusion.
Excellent, that's a great update. I'm sure music to the ears of Jags fans. And just touching on that update about club finances back in early June, what can you tell us about the position then and the position now, and what progress we've made in what's still quite a relatively short period of time?
I think the interesting thing for me is the club, we'd achieved stability by the time the announcement came out in May, June time. The more challenging period was actually before that. So we'd achieved stability by the time those announcements came out, and since then we just built on that. I mean, the season ticket sales coming in at the levels they've come in at, some of the things we've done around players' contracts and some of the football side of things, we're looking to protect our football assets, if you like. So we're looking to lock value into the club, and we're looking to understand and grow our revenue stream. So that's been the focus, has been on building a budget for season 23-24 that achieves all of those things and leaves the club in a far stronger position at this time next year than we find ourselves right now. That's not to say that we're not in a good position right now.
Yeah, of course. And getting to that stronger position today than maybe we were in earlier in the year. Fans have obviously played a huge role in that recovery, most notably, as you said, through season ticket sales. Is it fair to say that over the next week or so that further season ticket sales towards the 3,000 mark, hopefully, could still positively influence overall club finances and ultimately first team budgets?
100%. So the last thing I did before I came downstairs to chat to you was checked how many season tickets we've sold, and the number just clicked over to 2,300 as I was looking over Alan's shoulder. I think we sold about 2,400 for the whole of last season, so we're well ahead of schedule. I think we're getting close to the budget we set ourselves for season ticket sales for this season. So at that point, anything beyond that brings us into unbudgeted revenue. And as a club board and as an accountant, we love it when our revenue's above budget.
As we all do, and of course it's worth probably acknowledging just at this point the fantastic fundraising undertaken by Jags for Good, which has been match funded by the football club, which is another boost to season ticket numbers, but importantly to the local community as well.
Absolutely, and on that front, it's worth noting, and again coming out and thanking the Jags Foundation for the contribution they're making to the club. That's something we didn't have previously, and that's a significant six-figure number that's really boosting the club's finances.
It sure has. So you've been really busy in sort of this, short-term priorities, short to medium-term. Looking further ahead for you, what will it take for the club to enjoy long-term financial health, and what does success on that front look like to you?
It's all about stability. It's about stability in and around the club. It's something we've all talked about as fans for a long time. As a board member, it's something that we talk frequently about. It's stability within the club. It's stability within the club's operations. It's about making Firhill somewhere that people want to come, and I really feel that's the case now. It wasn't the case perhaps at times in the past, but it feels we're in a much stronger position as a club, as a fan base, and for me it's about that stability. Stability will bring people wanting to spend more time at Firhill, and if they want to spend more time at Firhill, then the club will probably benefit financially from that, despite the fact that it is a difficult time for families across the world right now.
It certainly is, and as we sit here today, we've also got 3 reasons for people to come to the Wire Stadium at Firhill in the next week or so. We've got the Spartans on Saturday, we've got the Thistle Open Day on Sunday, and then league football returns a week on Saturday with Wraith Rovers coming to Maryhill. So just with all that ahead of us, what would today your message be to Thistle supporters as we look forward to that?
I think the most important thing to say is thank you. Thank you for your support, thank you for your ongoing love of the club. I think that for me as an individual, as I mentioned a second ago, it feels to me that the feeling around the club right now is the best it's been for a long time. And as a Jags fan first and foremost, I'm really positive about that. I'm really positive about what the future holds for us as a club, and I look forward to sharing that success with my fellow supporters.
Hear, hear. And now you can tick this one off your to-do list and hand the baton over to Caroline and Douglas, who'll be next up. So thank you very, very much for your time today, and we look forward to catching up again during the season.
That's great. Thanks, Brian. Enjoyed that. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.